Several months ago, I had a conversation with Francis Macnab in which I said that I was really dissatisfied with my grasp of the new faith. And afterwards, when I reflected on our conversation, I realised that the problem was mine, that I had been a searcher for some time, as many of you have been, but I really had no clear idea of where I'd reached in my search. So I decided that I'd sit down and I'd try and collect my chaotic thoughts on religion and write something, and that's what I did. And I called it My Search for a Contemporary Faith, Progress So Far. And I sent a copy to Francis, and I sent it with the comment, I doubt you will read anything new or exciting in this, but I thought I should send you a copy, seeing you mentioned so often within it. And Francis came back to me and said he'd like me to share it with a wider audience. And I must say I felt pretty dubious about that. I thought it was rather presumptuous of me to be talking to a group like this about religious issues, but we're all here now, so I guess I'd better get on with it. But I am mindful that my warning to Francis is my warning to you. You may not hear much of new or exciting, but we'll see. And before I speak about the benediction itself, that's been really valuable to me, and you'll hear about that later, I think I should tell you some of my general beliefs about God and religion, so you know where I'm coming from, because where I'm coming from affects what I have to say to you. I am from a Protestant Christian background and still believe that the teachings of Christ have much from which we can learn. But the journey, I believe, that each of us takes is an individual one, and it's going to be greatly influenced by the culture in which we live and our own experiences. I also believe that whilst there will be a set of common insights which every relevant faith, life-affirming faith, would have, the details could well differ from each of those faiths. From earliest times, humankind has felt compelled to explore the possibility that there is something which exists there outside the reach of our senses, outside or perhaps deeply embedded in the physical world around us. In seeking to understand that world around us, and more importantly, our place in it, we appear to be drawn, instinctively I would say, to contemplate the existence of a supernatural being. The instinct I'll call the God instinct. Now, I don't think I've invented that term, but I don't know who did. When I googled the term, I understand there's a book by Tom Steller called The God Instinct, but that's a fairly recent book, and I have a feeling this term's been around for some time, so I acknowledge I didn't invent it. By its very nature, we cannot describe the nature of God, but must use metaphor. The metaphors we have used throughout the ages are products of their time, and their validity and their power changes as our culture and our knowledge and our circumstances change. In search for satisfying myths and metaphors, we're necessarily limited by our own knowledge and are prone to use the images that are most familiar to us. We tend to make God in our own image, and that's been said by many other people before. Karen Armstrong, and I know a number of you will have read her books, Karen Armstrong refers to this metaphorical way of thinking as mythos, and the logical approach, the one we're more familiar with in this day and age, as logos. She draws upon the difference between these two modes of thought to illuminate her analysis of religious issues, and I find what she has to say most appealing. Many of you will be familiar with her ideas, but just in case there's some of you who are not, let me quote just a few things from her writing. Firstly, a myth is true, therefore, because it is effective, not because it gives us factual information. A myth is essentially a guide. It tells us what we must do in order to live more richly. And then on logos, she says, logos is quite different from mythical thinking. Unlike myth, logos must correspond accurately to the objective facts. It is the mental activity we use when we want to make things happen in the external world, when we organise our society or develop our technology. And then, most importantly, she says, in the pre-modern world, most people realised that myth and reason were complementary. Each had its separate sphere, each its particular area of competence, and human beings needed both these modes of thought. Karen Armstrong suggests that in modern times we have lost touch with the power of mythos, and I'm certainly much more of a logos-oriented person than mythos, and I suspect many of you may be too. I believe whether we acknowledge it or not, each of us chooses or accepts a concept of God, and this concept strongly influences the way we live our lives. We vary in the extent to which we pay conscious thought to our concept of God and its consequences. Some of us do hardly at all. Some of us, it's a consuming passion. Religious people describe their concept of God as their faith, although I think Francis after this morning might want to take issue with that as a definition of faith, but let me use that one. Some of us attach to that faith an elaborate code of beliefs. Others eschew dogma, and yet others see no need to develop their faith beyond an instinctive and unformulated attitude to life. At times people have joined together in a common faith and thus become followers of what we call a religion. I believe that all forms of religion, and more widely, all forms of spiritual exploration, have as their foundation the God instinct. Early in his career, Francis reached the insight that there is a strong two-way relationship between our concept of God and our psyche. For each of us, our concept of God is strongly influenced by the state of our psyche, and the development of our psyche is in turn strongly influenced by how we see God. This insight, I believe, continues to inform his work, and I think is a key concept in considering God and its implications. Throughout our lives, we are called upon to make decisions and choose from among the options available to us. These decisions vary widely in their importance and in the stress they place upon us. It's easy to make a decision when nothing much hangs upon it, and it's easier to make a decision when we have faith in the beliefs that inform that decision. We crave certainty, and that craving leads us to affirm or continue to maintain beliefs or concepts about religion in particular that can no longer be justified. On the other hand, to allow ourselves to be continually undecided, agnostic, if you like, is just as inhibiting. And how we manage this, how we manage the conflict between wanting certainty and yet wanting to have a faith in our beliefs is, I think, a key issue. We also gain great comfort and assurance from the support of others. In seeking relationships with like-minded people, we've been drawn to forming religious communities. This too can be a two-edged sword. Our innate tribalism leads us to build walls around our community, excluding those who do not exactly share our faith, or worse, creating hostility even to the point of violence and persecution. You don't need me to give you examples of that. Another unfortunate aspect of human nature is that as our communities grow larger, hierarchies form, politics come into play, power struggles occur, and they distort and subvert the original ideas of that. Religious groups are no better in this respect than any other forms of human society. The pursuit of power and the maintenance of a dominant position is a pervasive and strong influence that can distort the thinking of all of us, and religious leaders are not exempt from that. For me, a contemporary faith must be credible and satisfying in the current context. It must engender a system of beliefs that are life-enhancing for its adherents, and it must successfully deal with the various issues that I've tried to quickly put before you. It's with those views that I came to Francis's benediction. Of all the many good, of all the many good things that Francis has written and said, the one that I find the most powerful, the most elegant, the most poetic, and the most profound is the benediction that he frequently uses at the end of the service. May the God you see in all the colours of creation arouse in you a sense of awe and wonder. May the God who is a sacred presence be real to you. May the God who is a source of inspiration and courage keep calling you forward. May your God go with you and bless you today and always.